Hi, Lacrosse fans. Welcome back to episode number 19 of the Sticks and Picks Lacrosse podcast presented by Lacrosse Unlimited. Lacrosse Unlimited has provided the best equipment, apparel, and lacrosse footwear since 1990. You can check out their website at lacrosseunlimited.com for all your lacrosse needs. I'm your host, Will Petchnig, alongside co-host Jake Fox. In today's episode, we talk to one of the game's best personalities and hear his stories about his lacrosse journey. You see his face all over the NLL's media, and some say he has the best style for a play-by-play announcer in the game. He believes he will take some heat for his GOAT comment, but whether he's right or wrong, all lacrosse fans can still give him some heat. He's a two-time Mann Cup champion. He's currently the play-by-play announcer for the Colorado Mammoth and host of Off the Crossbar podcast. He's an NLL insider and a Lacrosse Flash contributor. Prior to his broadcasting career, he played 6 seasons in the National Lacrosse League and was the 11th overall pick in the 2001 draft to Rochester. Please welcome Teddy Jenner.
Lads, thanks for having me.
Teddy, we're excited to have you. Again, you've become arguably one of the biggest personality guys in the NLL in terms of guys who aren't on the floor. So we're really excited to have you. Hear a little more what you got to say.
I appreciate it, guys. This is going to be a fun time. It's not often I'm on the other end, so I'm excited for it, and we'll tell some stories and have some fun.
Perfect. Yeah, we're definitely excited. So we're going to get right into things here and kind of talk about how you got involved with the game of lacrosse.
For those that know me, I have an older brother who's 7 years older, Fred, that played in the National Lacrosse League for years, played for Team Canada, won Mann Cup with the Shamrocks. So when I was just a young lad, I would follow my brother around everywhere. I was that typical young brother that you'd always see around with a little stick and a big helmet and oversized gloves that just couldn't scoop a ball, was just running around being out with the guys. So I was always a tag along, and I owe everything of what I learned and how I got to being around my brother and those guys. And there's probably still some guys, the older guys from this area that will remember me being a young ball boy with the junior Shamrocks and the seniors team and that 88 Minto Cup team here in Victoria. I was always around that group just because my brother was there. So I got really fortunate to hang out with and grow up watching some of the best. Like, Victoria is the hometown of the Gates. And I was in those locker rooms with those guys when they were young kids and in junior and even up into senior, and then hang around those guys really, really helped me understand what it meant to be a lacrosse player, a pro lacrosse player, and how much people love the game. And that's all because my brother didn't hate having me around. So he was the reason that I got into lacrosse, and I owe everything to him for that. But it was a crazy life. It was an awesome life growing up, just being around such talent in such a small city.
Yeah, I mean, you grew up playing BC. What was minor lacrosse back then like for you? How what was some big differences you see? Especially probably you get to see a little bit more minor lacrosse now. What are some big differences?
I think because when I was playing in minor, there was like only maybe 3 or 4 associations in the area. Like there was Victoria, Saanich, Peninsula, Wanapue. Those were the 4 in the Lower Mainland. They're still there, but now every team has and every association, because there's so many kids, has 5 or 6 teams within those divisions, whereas we would have an A1 and A2 team, and that was it. And because they're one association, Saanich, we were so good, we often would play an interlocking schedule with the mainland. So we would always go over and play the Burnabys and the Coquitlams and the New West and really play better lacrosse, for lack of a better term. And now, because there's so many teams and so many kids playing, those teams aren't getting a chance to go to the mainland. And so you're getting, like when I coached the JDF minor teams, they were just so dominant because all the best kids were on an A1 team. We would just run the table in Pee Wee and midget, and we'd get no competition. By the time we went to provincials on the mainland, when we're playing the Coquitlams and New West, who are battling each other every weekend, our teams just weren't ready at times because we weren't playing the right competition. So the biggest difference for me has been just kids kind of getting in a pattern of just always winning because their teams have been dominant because they're just playing lesser competition. So that's been the biggest jump. But minor was always a blast, right? Like you guys remember, you're playing with your best friends. It's road trips in the van and the trucks with your mom and dad and your best friends, cruising to music, having fun in the locker rooms, pumping tunes, telling jokes. Like everybody's minor experience was generally always the same. It was just a lot of fun being a kid. And who remembers like the water slide hotels and just partying until like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night because your parents let you. And those were the awesome times and memories that we all have being a kid playing lacrosse.
No, absolutely. I think me and Will can attest to some of those stories as well. We often, being from rival centers, went to the same tournaments, so it was often those road trips were some of the best times in minor. You went on to play
those friendships, right? Like even though you're battling, you and Will battling against each other in minor, by the time you're old enough to realize, holy crap, that guy's the same age as me from a different city, and I see him all the time. Like every year, like if that's the guy you lose to, or that's the kid you constantly always beat. And then when you get to junior and all of a sudden you're on the same teams, like that's a bond you'll never forget because you were battling each other for so long. And now you're teammates and become best friends. And 20 years later, you're hosting a podcast together. Like those are great evolutions of the game of lacrosse.
No, absolutely. You nailed it right on the head. Although I'll say I was probably more on the losing end playing Will, especially in minor. You obviously went on to play junior for Shamrocks, and I guess that's kind of for you was the correlation of, again, what you just said of you playing against Vic and all these other guys, and now you're playing on the same team as these guys in junior. What was that experience like for you playing for Victoria?
It was awesome because, like I alluded to at the start, being around my brother, I was always aware of the junior program, and I always went and watched those games and was in the stand. So I always knew that was where I wanted to go and where I was planning to be by the time I got there. And it was an incredible experience because I was playing up a few times when I was in intermediate and got to be around that group and knew all the guys because they were just always there. So our junior program at the time wasn't very good. We were usually finished 4th or 5th, sometimes even out of the playoffs. I think one year they went 1-19 or something brutal. Like they were bad for years. But by the time I got to my second year, we started getting guys like Ryan Ward and Blaine Manning came out to play. We had Curtis Smith. We had some great goaltenders. Ray Dance was our goalie my senior year. Fans out east will know Radar. He's an absolute legend. Great story about him. He used to put on a giant leprechaun costume and be the senior Shamrocks mascot. And it wasn't like he had lifts or anything. It was just the actual size of Ray Dance, but his oversized leprechaun outfit. And he would stand at the other team's ragline when they were announcing players and just echo guys and like be right in their face. Nobody knew who it was. Like we knew who it was, but he was just an absolute beauty. But our junior team got really good in the last couple of years because the guys younger than me started to catch up, and that was a couple of great, really, really great young groups behind me. But we ran into the Burnaby dynasty. We were the start of that decade of dominance, and we had no chance. They had the ability to bring in Ontario guys when we were bringing in Alberta guys, and not that the Alberta guys weren't great lacrosse players, because they were. Everyone knows Blaine Manning. He's a fantastic lacrosse player. He was an Alberta legend. But we couldn't compete with bringing out guys like Anthony Cosmo and Andy Turner and Tom Hyack. Craig Kahn came out. They brought out Jeff Snyder. He came out west. So Paul Del Monte and that Burnaby group did an incredible job, and we just never were able to get by them. We had a chance. My last year, we were up 3-2. We had them game 6 at home, and we did the absolute worst thing. We all brought changes of clothes. We all saw our ownership bringing in the champagne and all the beer. We were like, we're celebrating, boys. This is it. And then they won the next 2 games easily. And we were like, what the hell just happened? We were supposed to be partying 2 nights ago. And so junior was awesome, man. Like it sucked that we never went to a Minto. It's one thing I'll always regret and miss, because I just hear all the amazing stories of what guys went through to play in a Minto and to win a Minto, and having gone through that to get to a Man Cup just really stings. I never got to do that in junior.
Yeah, I get that feeling. I had the same thing in Peterborough, where I ran into the Six Nation Arrow dynasty of them winning 3 and 4 years. One thing you mentioned I always forget is for BC Junior, you have to play intermediate, I believe, your first year or 2, unless you're an absolute stud and you get the direct call-up. But, I mean, it's very rare that you see someone in their first few years playing with junior. Talk about how much of an impact that actually has in developing players.
Yeah, so now the rule has actually changed, and we've gone to the Ontario 5-year junior system. So now we're doing that. Once you write out a midget, you're right into juniors. You're either playing junior A or tier 1 or tier 2. But yeah, back in the 90s, there was 2 years of intermediate. So you went from midget 16, 17, you played intermediate 18, 17, 18 years old, and it I want to say it helped you develop your skills playing that intermediate group, but oftentimes it didn't help you become a tougher lacrosse player. Because as you know, if you're a 17, 18-year-old kid and you're playing 21-year-olds, you got to be hardened and tough and gritty and understand that you're going to get the shit kicked out of you. Whereas if you come into junior at just 19, you're only playing guys that are 1 or 2 years older than you. So that gap's not as big. But intermediate was great lacrosse. We got absolutely hammered in the finals, 20-2. My last year of intermediate lacrosse, that was an embarrassing loss. But I loved, intermediate I liked it at the time, but I think it's what Ontario has done with 5 years of junior. If that kid's not ready to make that jump, then he plays junior B. There's nothing wrong with that. Junior B, as Ontario people know, and people here are now starting to realize, junior B is damn good lacrosse. And it's not jungle lacrosse, it's really good lacrosse. So now that we have that in place and people are starting to understand it, I think it's going to make BC lacrosse better. It's going to allow those kids, because not a lot of kids really did make that jump from intermediate to junior. It just wasn't a thing that you did. But now kids are, as a coach in the junior program, I've seen kids that are first year juniors that are 17 years old that are like, yep, that guy's a junior A player for 5 years. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and he's going to be there. So I think, I probably could have benefited that. Like, I could have probably gone and jumped to junior right away, but we didn't have that opportunity. And there's a bunch of other guys that probably could too, and it might have helped our junior program, but it's just not the way that it worked.
Yeah, no, I certainly think having that 5-year junior system is better. It allows those younger players to grow and learn with those older guys in the junior game. So we're going to talk about your NCAA career at Mercyhurst. Can you kind of talk about your recruiting process and what it was like as a BC kid to go all the way down to Mercyhurst?
So I never got recruited. I got one letter out of the blue from Amherst, and they said they wanted me to come out for a recruiting trip, and I never heard back from them. And so I never sent a highlight tape. I didn't have any highlight tape footage. I never really reached out until like July after I'd graduated high school. And I had reached out to a couple D1 schools because I knew I wanted to go into journalism. So I reached out to a few schools. I reached out to Syracuse. I reached out to Duke. I reached out to, at the time, Michigan State, and they were the one I heard back from. And so I had actually gotten accepted to go to Michigan State. I was going to be on the lacrosse team, and then they got Title IX and they lost their program. And so they were going down to club, and I was like, okay, I don't want to play club lacrosse. And it just so happened that there was a couple of Vancouver guys that were going to Mercyhurst. And one of the guys' dad, Brent Corsado, his dad, Ron Corsado, who's a longtime NLL and WLA referee, was sort of like a Western scout for him. And I knew him pretty well from my playing days and playing field lacrosse with Brent. And he was like, look at this guy. And so I got a call from them. And actually, Bruce Alexander from Victoria was going there at the time. And they brought me in. And that's how I got there. I went sight unseen. I had like 2 chats with the coach. That was about it. I wasn't guaranteed anything. I was just paying Canadian on par. And I was like, Erie, Pennsylvania. Okay. I went to high school for 2 years in Hudson, Ohio. I kind of understand. I know Buffalo. It's going to be cold and snow. Cool. Let's do it. And it was 4 phenomenal years. We were a D1 program at the start, which was a nice little lure to get me there. And then we were just, Mercyhurst is a small liberal arts college, like 3,000 kids. Like, there's not a lot of people there. And the first year of the program, they got beat like 24-4 by Virginia. And the next year was my first year, and the same things were happening. We were playing these big D1 schools and just getting whacked. And the school decided, you know what? Let's put our hockey team D1. You guys go to D2. And it was the right decision for both programs. and Mercier started to excel as a D2 program, and they've won a national title since. So we never went. We probably should have gone if they had a larger bracket, because my last couple of years, there was only taking 2 northern teams and 2 southern teams, and we were with Lemoyne and New York Tech and NYT and Adelphi and all those like top New York schools. So we never really got a chance because they're always taking New York schools. We were just this little D2 school in Ohio that people were in PA that not many people were paying attention to. So right after that, they kind of expanded the tournament after I left. So that really helped Mercier's grow, and then winning the title helped them get even bigger. I'm a proud alumni of that spot, man. D2 is not as flashy as a lot of those D1 programs, but if the program fits you and the school fits you, there's no need to go any bigger than you have to.
No, for sure. And then you look back, and I was looking at the Lakers and the pros and seeing your name there. I saw you mentioned Bruce Alexander, and a guy I know pretty well you played with for a few years, and Patty Merrill.
Yeah.
What was Patty like in college? I gotta know, because I've always known him as like the stern coach.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that didn't say a lot, and you knew he didn't have to because he just led by example. His work ethic was second to none. He was always one of the most in shape guys. He was always one of the hardest workers, but he also was a legend off the floor. He was just an absolute beauty. He'd be out partying with the lads and having a few beers, but he never got too out of control. And if we had a busy weekend of practice and games, he was the one taking it serious, and he was just a grinder, man. He could do it all over the floor for us. He was a two-way midi, and he played like a small Brody. He kind of has that style where he understands where the ball is going to go. He understands where the pressure is going to be and where guys are sliding from and where he should be positionally defensively. And it's just a knack that those two guys have. And they kind of run alike when you watch them run. They kind of have that kind of arm moving, leg chugging gait. Yeah. And yeah, he was awesome. He was a great teammate. And whenever we get together, we make sure we chat up. It's funny. Craig Rubzinski, the longtime voice of the Nighthawks, he was actually my college sports writing teacher at Mercer, and he was the assistant sports information director there. So I've known Ripper since like 2000, and he was kind of one of the reasons, I guess, why I got drafted by the Nighthawks, because he had gone and taken a job with the Nighthawks. He's from that area, and he's like, oh, there's Mercier's guy, and I kind of knew him, and he kind of helped me get there. And I called my first game with him doing color when I was a healthy scratch. So I owe a lot to Ripper, and whenever he and I get together, we always talk about old times in EPA.
Well, it's certainly awesome, and it's great to have those bonds and all those friendships that you've had from your college years, and you still keep in contact to this day. So we're going to have a little fun here. We're going to do our this or that segment. Basically, Jake's going to give you two options. You got to pick one. You can explain why, or you don't have to.
Talk to that. By the way, we need to do a Shamrock Gales hat switch.
Sounds good. I got a whole bunch.
Yeah, beauty.
All right. The first one, Twitter or Instagram?
Twitter.
All right. Box or field?
Box, 100%. No questions asked. Every day of the week.
Playing or doing play-by-play?
Now, play-by-play. My body can't play anymore.
You've seen a lot of lacrosse. Which style is more entertaining to call, East Coast or West Coast box?
Ooh. See, I like physicality and I like rough and tough, but still fast play. I'm going to go right down the middle. I'm going to say, yeah, I like Eastern lacrosse. I like Eastern.
I was expecting the favoritism.
It's just a lot of more physical game, but still has all the speed of what the West does. Just has that little bit more nastiness.
Awesome. Which man cup was more memorable, 03 or 05?
05. All my buddies were on that team.
All right. Are you a Tim's or a Starbucks guy?
I don't drink coffee. So I'm a London Fog guy. So that's a Starbucks drink. I'll go Starbucks.
Which place do you like more, I guess? We'll go Loud House or the Q Center?
You can't do that to me. 14,000 people, Loud House.
So strictly numbers is not favoritism.
No, I see. I can't do that because that would be favoritism, right? Like Victoria all day, every day, but just sheer numbers of people, Loud House. That's awesome, awesome, awesome.
What do you like more, covering WLA or the NLL?
I travel more, NLL.
All right. You hunting or fishing?
Fish.
All right. Summer Olympics or Winter Olympics?
Summer.
What's your favorite summer sport you like to watch?
High jump.
High jump. Wow. Okay. Steak or seafood?
Seafood.
All
West
right.
Coast guy.
Hiking or snowboarding / skiing?
Hiking all day. I got concussions, man. I can't fall on snow.
And
Yeah.
then the last one, who is a better Canuck, Marcus Naslund or Trevor Linden?
I'm not a Canuck fan. I'm an Oilers guy, but all day, every day, Trevor Linden, one of the best athletes of all time.
I like it.
That's awesome. Other than McDavid and Draisaitl, who's the best player on the Oilers right now?
I'm a huge Darnell Nurse guy. Big Darnell Nurse guy.
That's awesome. We had his uncle on for one of our ref segments a few weeks ago. So crazy sports family there.
Oh, what a legendary family. Warren Moon's in that family. Not Warren Moon.
Donovan McNabb.
Donovan McNabb's in that family too. Yeah, what a gene pool.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. And we're gonna get into your NLL career here. You were drafted.
This should be fun.
You were drafted 11th overall in the 2001 entry draft to Rochester. Can you kind of go through that day and what that was like for you and your family?
Yeah. They had asked me to fly out for the draft, but I was right in the middle of the WLA playoffs with the Shamrock, so I couldn't head out there. So I remember just sitting at home, listening to the draft online with my parents in their place where I was still living at the time. And I just remember getting the call from, I think it was somebody from the league had called me and said that Rochester was going to take me, and on the other end was going to be the GM. And I was like, holy crap, this is pretty awesome. And then somebody from the league was on the call at the same time and did a little interview for me. So it was a pretty awesome day because I knew, truth be told, I wanted to go to Philadelphia. Just because I knew what the city was. I knew how awesome the fans were. I knew Marty O'Neill, the GM at the time. That's kind of where I thought I would end up. I didn't really think Rochester was going to take me being a Western guy. But I was super thrilled because I knew Junior was there. I knew the Molosky's were there. Sean Williams was there. And I knew the history of Rochester, and I kind of knew the area. So I was pretty special for me. I went to, it was either the next night or that night, we were traveling to a game in Vancouver in the playoffs, and we're getting congratulations from guys and all that. And JT was on our team at the time. So this is early 2002. And he goes, hey man, you're never going to play there, right? I'm like, that's not I was like, John Tavares is just saying I'm never going to play. Like, I feel like absolute crap, right? Like, the hell? And I'm like, oh, there's JT, Dewey Jacobs, Sean Williams, Kurt Molosky. Like, I'm the fifth lefty, and I'm a rookie, and I'm going to try to crack getting into that lineup. So I finally understood what he meant. He wasn't trying to knock my skills or anything like that. But that was when you get a chance to learn from those guys. What a group of guys to be under for a couple of years. So that was a really special night and call, and sucks I couldn't be there but the draft back then wasn't anything special. It probably would have been in a portable or something like that. But I'll never forget that phone call. But it was the start of a career and a journeyed one for sure.
Yeah, no, you guys ended up making the championship in 2003. What was that experience like for you? Like you said, you had the stacked left side, and you were in and out of the lineup a little bit, but it still must be pretty cool to be able to make your way to a championship. Yeah,
it was a really cool experience to be part of because, I hadn't been through that process yet as a player at that kind of level, and to see what it takes and the effort that guys that were everyday guys were putting in. I learned a lot from those moments. We got a chance to play it at home against Toronto. I loved our chances going into that game. I didn't think there was any way we were going to lose that game. But I wasn't expecting Bob Watson and Pat O'Toole to put on an absolute goaltending clinic. And I also wasn't expecting the Rock to get like 4 goals out of their back end, including Ian Rubel scoring a breakaway goal. What a game, though. A phenomenal atmosphere. It absolutely sucks. There's no worse feeling than losing, except losing at home in front of your fans. And that one sucked. It sucks even more because even as good as that lineup was, like I felt that I probably could have done something to maybe make a case for myself. But again, they weren't taking Junior, Dewey, Mouse Jr., Derek Malosky. They weren't taking those guys out of lineup for me. So it sucked having to watch. But, those are the moments that you learn from and the ones that make you better because you get to watch up close and personal what it takes to be a champion. And that Rock team was damn good.
No, absolutely. And still, again, the chance to get to that level and that must have been pretty cool. You obviously played for a couple other franchises, Anaheim, Minnesota, and then ending up in Edmonton.
Yeah.
What was Anaheim like? Because I know they were around for, 2 years?
They were around for, at most, 3 seasons. I was only
came from Jersey, right?
Yeah, so at the time when they were in New Jersey, they had Jason Williams, the former basketball guy, was their owner, and they were playing in New Jersey. It just wasn't working. And I think at the time when they sold was right when Williams allegedly shot his limo driver. So the team flipped out to Anaheim. Jim Brady was involved in the organization. And it was just a clusterfuck from the start, man. Like, it was a gong show. Our gloves still said New Jersey on them. Like, they didn't even give us new gloves. We had to give everything back. I don't have anything from that team. Like, I have nothing from those days. They were supposed to get Chris Panos and I a townhouse in Anaheim because we were going to move there. They kept on dropping the ball. We were, like, trying to find places for ourselves. They're like, yep, here's an address. Can you go look it for us? Like, yep, oh, no, sorry, we didn't do that. Oh, yep, no, next week. Okay, yeah, we're not going to move you guys down. We'll just fly you. I'm like, sure, whatever. But, we played in the Honda Center where the Ducks play. So that's a 16, 17,000 seat arena. And we probably had more players than fans sometimes. You could literally, I remember one game I could hear my mom cheering in the stands. That's how few people were. I could pick out her voice. They just didn't do a very good job. And it was pro lacrosse in Anaheim. It just wasn't the fit. And so I got shipped from there to Minnesota. Marty O'Neill, who, again, like I said, was hoping was going to bring me to Philly, eventually got me to Anaheim. And I spent a season there. And I think, other than Edmonton, I think Minnesota and Edmonton are the 2 cities that need a pro team back of the place that I played. The fans in Minnesota and St. Paul were phenomenal to us. They absolutely loved us. They treated us with gold. All the guys that lived in Minnesota were treated like gold. They had an incredible time. And that fan base had their team ripped away from them. And it was a devastating loss for that group because they were, they had been there for, I want to say like 5-6 years, something like that. By the time they left, that was kind of around the time that Arlotta was trading every fan favorite and every star player that they ever got. And he was just stockpiling all those picks. And everyone was, what the hell is he doing? Like, he's just ruining his organization, his franchise. And I don't know if he was trying to drive the price down so that he could move or whatever he was trying to do. But he moved the team, and we've all seen what he's done since he's moved the team. They're still not getting the numbers in the stands that they want, but I think that fan base needs a fan base back or a team back. And then I think Edmonton kind of had the same thing. We got put into a situation in Edmonton where, we were the new team trying to find a niche in Oilers country. And it was a tough road to hoe for those 2 years. And a lot of credit to Bruce Urban and Paul Day for trying to do everything they could to, hey, that's better lighting, Foxy. There you go, buddy. I can see it They did everything in their power to try and make a winning team, but we just those first couple years we weren't good. Like I've been on two. I tell the story all the time. I've been in two 1-15 teams in the NLL. Anaheim, we went 1-15, and my first year in Edmonton, we went 1-15, and we were bad. The only game we won was a last-second goal against Calgary where Cam Bergman picked up a face-off, went down, took a shot. It went off Curtis Pallador, bounced off defender Andrew Beers, and trickled across the line. That's how we won our only game in Calgary. It was incredible. Patty Campbell, our backup goalie, comes running across the floor, dog piles us against the glass. Like our locker room was like we had just won the championship. It was crazy. Like you would have thought we'd won. How happy everybody was within that room, and because we did it in Calgary, and we had a bunch of Edmonton fans there, and our owner was there, like it was a special moment for that group. But that was a lot of fun in Edmonton. That was a great place. And then it kind of slowly started to get better. And then Bruce Urban just was kind of being forced out of the arena when they were going to do the new arena deal. And from what I remember, he was kind of told there wasn't going to be a spot for the Rush within the Oilers Entertainment Group and within Rogers Place, the new arena. So he's like, well, if you don't got a home for me and I can't play in Northlands, I'm just going to leave. And nobody really did anything to aggressively try to stop that group. And Saskatoon's gain is Edmonton's loss, and we all that's been wildfire, man. That is crazy what's happened there.
No, I love hearing the cannonball story there. That's exactly how I see.
There is no one better as a teammate, hands down, ever than Patty Campbell. Ever. I had played with him in Rochester. He was our backup goalie, and then I got paired up with him. And Paul Day was my coach in Edmonton, and we had Patty Campbell. And then Paulie was my coach again in Edmonton, and he brought in Patty Campbell as to be our starter at one point or backup. And I have all the time in the world for that guy. I have all the love for that guy. I have so many stories about that guy, just like probably everybody who's had an encounter with Pat Campbell does. Hands down, best teammate ever, period. No doubt.
He used to always hook me up with Rock tickets back in the day when I was at the Hill Academy. He was awesome. What other places, you mentioned Minnesota, Edmonton, where else do you see a center coming into this league? Because obviously the league's expanding pretty rapidly, and I know Commissioner said he wants 16 teams in the next few years total in the league. So what do you think is the next big center we could see?
It's not a big center, but all signs point to Fort Worth being what's next. That's kind of out there. The league has made a trademark for the name. All signs have been talking that they're going to be going there. There's obviously nothing official, but that seems to be next. Obviously, Vegas is on everybody's radar, and talking points that will go there. I'm on the Nashville boat. I'd love to go to Nashville. I think that'd be a natural fit. I think everybody was kind of hoping that Arlotta would, after the first couple of years in Gwinnett, would say, okay, you know what, this isn't working. Let's go next door. Let's go to Nashville. We all kind of thought it was, because there was a time where a lot of those Swarm guys were making road trips to Nashville and going to Predators games and stuff like that. So we all kind of thought there might have been some sort of movement, but that never happened. But I'd love the league to still go there. I think Montreal would probably work again. They kind of struggled that first couple of years they were there, but I think the Express was one of the best logos and name they ever had. I'd love to go back there. Winnipeg would obviously probably be another cool Canadian market. I think, they love their Jets. They love hockey. There's a lot going on there for hockey. They got the Moose, they got the Jets, they got junior hockey, like the Wheat Kings and all that. So it is a busy hockey market. But those are a couple I could see. And I'm probably not blowing anybody's mind. That's kind of where everybody wants to go, those few spots.
Yeah, no, certainly. And Jake and I are both from Ottawa, and I know they used to have a team there. And the way the game's grown,
that's where I called my first ever. That's where I did color my first ever game.
Okay, so so I grew up watching them play. I think they were there for only a couple seasons, but the way the game's grown in Ottawa, I think there's certainly maybe one day an opportunity for an ownership group to bring a team there. So
absolutely.
We're going to talk about your summer lacrosse in the WLA. You played for Victoria, and you ended up winning two-man cups in 2003 and 2005. Can you kind of talk about your experience is in playing in the summer game?
So obviously, being like I kind of talked about earlier, being a Victoria guy growing up, you wanted to play for the junior Shamrocks. You wanted to play for the senior club. I always wanted to play in Memorial Arena. That was a goal. I always wanted to put on that jersey and play in front of family and friends. And when I got that opportunity, it was great. I had an absolute blast playing senior lacrosse. Like when you can play at the highest level with your best buddies in your hometown in front of your friends and family, there's no better feeling. And then so for 03, that team was one of the most talented teams I've ever played with. We had John Tavares. We had Jim Veltman. We had Darren Rysick, Blaine Manning, Lewis Ratcliffe, Caleb Toth, Bruce Alexander, like studs. We were an absolutely stacked team. I think Dwight Metke was one of our goaltenders. Andy Turner was on that team. Tom Hayek was on that team. And I kind of found myself again. That was kind of my first spot in Rochester. I was just behind some absolute legends. And I was unable to crack that starting roster during the Mann Cup. And so I didn't play a single game in that Mann Cup. I actually got put on the IR. So during that year, Royker loves to hate me for telling this story. So everyone who knows Matt Roy knows he's got a bit of a short temper. So he was our goalie, and we were playing a 2-game series against, I think, North Shore Indians, or they were the Okanagan team at the time in Port Alberni, which is the town up on the island. And this guy, Ray Gouze, is a cherry picker, and he scores an around-the-world Tommy Twist goal on Royker and, does a big pump celly as he's kind of doing his loop. So Royker comes out and, tomahawks him with his stick, pushes him to the ground, and tries to, kick him. So this is right before the trade deadline. And so Royker gets a 3-game suspension. So to get another goalie, they signed Dwight Metke. And to do that, they had to make room. So they put me on the IR, even though I wasn't technically injured. And so they hid me on the IR. And so I wasn't able to play from July 1st until the Mann Cup because I was on season-ending IR. And so by the time the Mann Cup came, there was no way I was getting in the lineup. I hadn't played in 2 months, so I hadn't played in a game in 2 months. So I got to sit and watch that Mann Cup, just like watching that, loss in the championship game. You learn so much from watching, especially when you can sit right there and watch it all and be detailed and get tasked with taking stats. You really, truly have to pay attention to things. So, yes, I won. That one means less than the 05 one because 05 I played in 5 of 6 games. And again, like I said, that was, that one I appreciate more because I played every single game all year long. That was, like I said, me and all my buddies. That was our young group of team and group of guys. And that was one that was the most memorable just because it was one that was the hardest to earn because I actually had to work for it.
No, I get that. I've been through that same experience, funnily. What's it called? I was on the IR, and I just happened to be in Israel playing for Iroquois during that time with the team. So obviously now, like we mentioned before, Vic's playing out at the Q Center, which is, up there with Memorial Center in the East. And, obviously it's a special floor, just like New West. What does the Q Center mean to you?
I think truly the Q Center is almost a rebirth for Victoria Lacrosse because wherever they played downtown at the old Memorial Arena, which is an iconic arena in Victoria, and it's been home to championships in hockey and lacrosse and concerts and all that. Everybody knows it. It's still there now. It's Save On Foods Arena, but the only team that plays out of there is the junior hockey team. And when they tore that down, the Shamrocks moved out to the West Shore, where the majority of now Victoria was starting to move and grow. That was the new burgeoning area of Victoria. So putting it there was, like I said, a rebirth because it was now getting a new group of fans, the new younger families that are now growing and starting to become young lacrosse playing kids or adults that used to play the game and still have a passion for the game. So it brought in a whole new fan base. And from day one, because we were so good, we were selling that place out during the playoffs. We were putting, 1,500 people in there for regular season games on the regular. And it is, the top draw out west. It probably doesn't get consistent sellouts like the Mem does in Peterborough, but you guys have air conditioning, so it's okay. I get it. But it's the best arena in BC, hands down for atmosphere. The LEC is a phenomenal lacrosse arena just for optics and the scoreboard and all that stuff. But because Bear Mountain or the Q Center now puts all those fans in there and the atmosphere that's in there, it's just the best place for a lacrosse game in BC.
Let's talk about you walking away from the game playing wise. What led to that decision for you?
A few things. I think concussions was one of them. I was pretty much getting like one a year, and they were happening too easy. It wasn't because I was getting like massively crushed. I was, taking a hit running across the middle or just bumping into guys and my head kind of rattling off the glass. So that was a sure telltale sign. Another one, I think, just from the moment I got into the NLL, I don't think I ever truly bought into being a professional lacrosse player. I was more about the life, and I didn't commit to being physically fit. I didn't commit going to the gym. I didn't really truly commit eating right. I just would go out there and let my natural talent and hard work try to be enough. And it wasn't enough. And I was slowly getting, I was becoming that forecheck, back check, paycheck guy, right? Like I was playing offense and I kind of became a transition guy. And I wasn't really good at that. So I became a D guy and I wasn't really good at that. So I was just kind of slowly getting filtered out. And so I just, not that I lost the love for it. I just wasn't as committed as I should be. And about second year in Edmonton, I was like, you know what? I'm done. I have some other things I want to try out and do. I wanted to really get into journalism and radio, and traveling every weekend wasn't allowing me to do that. So it was kind of an easy transition. My mind was ready for it. And once I stopped playing, it sucked. I missed it, right? Like we all miss it when even now, even guys that are like you, Foxy, that are playing at the top level, playing every weekend, traveling, you miss it. It's not there right now, right? You miss all that. And it sucks. But when it's time to go, you'd rather be able to walk out on your own 2 feet, knowing that you're done, than had to be like carried off or helped off the floor and be like, you know what? Now you definitely can't play again, right? You won't be doing a lot of things ever again. So it was the right time for me, and I think it was probably the right decision because I've been able to quickly make the steps to get where I wanted to be, and it's been 12 years sort of since that last lacrosse game, and I'm in a pretty good spot mentally and physically and health-wise, so it was the right decision.
Yeah, no, for sure. And before we get into your kind of new career, sort of say, we're going to have a little more fun with a word association game. So Jake will give you a word, and you got to think of someone in the lacrosse world that first comes to mind for it.
That's currently in the lacrosse world, or like was a player, or whatever.
Was or
Whatever.
Is or
was is maybe. Gotcha.
All right. The first word is GOAT, greatest of all time.
Paul Gate.
Wow. Okay. No, that's surprising.
He's 19. I'm 19. He's been my guy forever. He's
Nice.
my guy. He's my goat.
Next one's goal scorer.
Best goal scorer, Junior.
Yep. New Hopkins coach. Good for him. Proud, happy to have him in the family.
What a coup that is. Woo. Big news.
I'm trying to see if somehow I can get a year of eligibility back.
I think we're all trying to find that last year of eligibility. I got one still, I think.
The next word's playmaker.
Shooter.
Okay. Next one up is tough.
Snides.
Yeah, it's funny. We talked to who did we talk to? Oh, Troy Bonter, and he said, yeah, that was the one fight that he wished he could forget.
I love Snides because he wasn't. We all know he's not the biggest, but he could talk shit, smack you in the face, still talk shit, and then smack you in the face again.
No, he's definitely someone I want to get on here. Detail oriented.
Ooh. Dan Dawson.
Passionate.
Dan Dawson.
Funny.
Dan Dawson? Dan Dawson. Dry, funny. I love that guy. He's cracked me up all the time.
Coach.
Chris Hall.
Brick wall.
Reggie Thorpe.
Wow. Why Reg?
I could never get around him. I never was able to beat him in a one-on-one drill. For a big dude, he had such a low center of base, but strong as an ox. Like that guy could throw anybody to the ground. He was a beast.
Agitator.
Ray Gouze.
All right. Commentator.
You
can't say yourself.
No, I would never. Who's my favorite lacrosse guy? I'm gonna go old school. Lee Felsmo. I love that guy. Rip and rope, because when you if you think back, really the only lacrosse that I ever saw on TV, rarely saw box lacrosse on TSN. You rarely ever saw it. We always got the ABC feed of the NCAA championship. I would watch it every spring. It was always on. And so I always saw Lee Felsmo, rip and roll. That guy was a legend. I love it.
And the last word, and it's always my last word because it's my favorite word, jackass.
Patty Campbell.
Yeah, I can see that. You see Cannonball fitting in perfectly there.
That's awesome. We're gonna go back to your kind of your new career now, into your commentating and play-by-play. Kind of talk to us about how you got involved with the Mammoth and how you started your broadcasting career.
So I kind of already touched on how my broadcast career started. I went to Mercyhurst for broadcast journalism. It was always what I wanted to do. So I started calling college hockey and basketball, football games at school. I was Ripper's color guy a couple times. I got to call a Victoria Shamrock game as a one-off when I was 18 years old or something like that, just randomly. And then once I got done playing, it was my dad who really said, I was selling cars at the time. I wasn't happy. He's like, you need to go back to radio school. You need to get back into it. If that's what you want to do, you got to get back into it. So we found a place in Vancouver where it was a 10-month radio program. And at that school, the one major selling point was they had a program that they called the Junior AdNac games. And so they would just film all the Junior AdNac games. They put them on the internet. They would use the voice and all that stuff. So I was like, I want to do that. He's like, okay. And so I was calling Junior A and Junior B AdNac and Intermediate A. I was calling 4 teams a week. And I was calling all of them by myself. I even filmed one by myself because my camera guy didn't show up. And that was really how I got my feet wet and really got into the rhythm of calling games. So, that started me to call WLA games. I called the 2009 Minto with Jumbo, the Man Cup with Jumbo, which was incredible. The 2010, I called that Minto, which was unreal. And then I moved back to Victoria and was calling games here. And Steve Govett, who I'd gotten to know quite well because I had my radio show at the time, and I knew him from Team Canada stuff. He just tweeted out one day as I was calling a Shamrock game, and he's like, other than our own guys here in Colorado, I think Off the Crossbar calls a heck of a lacrosse game. And so I responded back. I said, hey, thanks, Steve. I really appreciate it. By the way, I'm willing to relocate. And he called me the next morning, and he said, were you serious? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, your tweet last night, you said you'd be willing to relocate. Did you know we need a guy? I said, no. He goes, yeah, Andy Lindall, our main guy's leaving. Connor's going to go do Broncos. We need a guy. And I was like, okay. Yeah. He's like, all right, let me put some wheels in motion. And that was the start of it. Unfortunately, 4 seasons later, I still haven't relocated. Still trying to make that happen, I think. But it's been an incredible opportunity. It's helped me grow because not only am I calling games for the NLL, I'm actually calling games for Altitude Sports, which is, a big entity of Stan Kroenke Enterprises and Altitude Sports Entertainment. Like, there's a lot. It's not just calling games for NLL on BR Live, right? It's not just calling games for a small web stream that only goes outside your city. This is, a national TV station that's producing this game. So there's a lot more that goes into it. And you have to be prepared for every little thing. I've never had more notes, more preparation time and all that than I have since I started this job now. So, and that's helped me to call NLL drafts, NLL championship games. It's just been a long process. And, there were times where I was kicking and moaning because I wasn't getting recognized, or I kept on asking the NLL for opportunities and I wasn't getting them, and I felt slighted. I wasn't kicking and screaming, publicly, but inside I was pretty pissed off. And it wasn't until Nick Sakevich and Joel Feld came in and that I really got an opportunity to take my abilities and my skills to the next level, and I'm forever grateful to them. And it's only just the start. I don't know what comes next after calling lacrosse games, but hopefully there's something that is next.
No, for sure. And again, we actually met for the first time in person at my NLL draft this year, and we got to be talking, and it's fun to talk to you. I'll say that. You definitely have some good stories, and I enjoy your insight to the game. And you've been doing a lot more of the NLL drafts lately. How's that experience been for you, and how's that prep for you? Because you have to do everything.
I got to tell you, Steven Stamp is a wizard when it comes to that stuff. Like, he knew, I have to say, he probably knew 95% of everybody that was in the draft. He knew something about everybody. And I had details on most of the people. There were some guys I didn't, so I kind of had to BS my way through, just because sometimes a name will catch you off guard and you're like, who? And so I really relied on Stamper for that. He was invaluable. That guy is a walking encyclopedia of talent, and his mock drafts are things that I couldn't do. That's beyond my brain capacity. But it is a lot of prep work. You have to, you may not be calling directly to those players, but you're definitely talking to their coaches. You're talking to guys that have played with them before, or current teammates, other coaches or scouts or people that may have seen them play. And you just kind of you may not try to get, 50 points on every guy. If you can get 1 or 2 ideas about each guy that really exemplify who he is as a person, as a player, it makes it a challenge as a broadcaster, because you can't just show up and wing it. We were on camera for 5 hours straight. You have to be able to fill that time, and it's not easy. And I thought Devin did an incredible job hosting, and Stamper did a great job, and our whole TV crew, and Joel Feld, I thought everybody did great. And Tabitha and Jordy, they were put in a tough spot because, Jordy hasn't really been around a lot of box lacrosse people in his career. He's a Philly field guy. And you put him in that situation, and it's not easy for everybody. People think that being a broadcaster or hosting a podcast or hosting a draft or whatever is easy. You just turn on a mic and talk. It's not. Like, there are a lot of shy people out there. And when you're interviewing a shy person, trying to get them to open up and expand beyond yeah, it's good kind of generic answer, it can be frustrating, especially if you're in that interview and your producer says, okay, give me 3 minutes. 3 minutes is a long time to interview somebody. And if that person isn't interested in talking to you, if that person just isn't a good speaker, or they're nervous and you got to fill that time, you got to be able to. So you got to have stuff to fill that void. So it's a lot of work, and it's something that I don't take for granted because I learned a lot from not being prepared, but I've also learned a lot from being over prepared. And so, yeah, I've had to find that happy medium. And those are the things you learn from your mistakes and your successes. And it helps you become a better broadcaster, helps me become a better podcast host and interviewer. And every opportunity that this mic turns on is an opportunity to shine. And the one thing that I'll never forget a radio host in Vancouver said was pride of ownership. Have ownership in what you do every time you do it. And if that means being the best that you can when you turn your mic on and host a show or broadcast a game, own it and be prideful. And that's what I try to do every time. And that's what, we all try to do when we do this. So it's been an incredible journey and opportunity. And I'm so blessed to do it, but I'm having fun doing it every time, man. Like when we get to have these conversations or, I get to interview guys in the league and we get to talk about old school stuff or guys that I've never really had one-on-one opportunities to chat before, and we can have a 25-minute conversation about anything and everything. Those are some of the best conversations you can have because you run the gamut. And if you go off course for 2 or 3 minutes and you tell a story that has no correlation to what you're talking about, that's just natural conversation, and that's not easy to have. And people think that is. People think it's super easy just to have a normal conversation, but it's not. So draft prep and just prep in general is essential to what we do.
I got one. I'm going to put you on the spot here. I'm going to test your NLL draft abilities. With COVID right now and the uncertainty of who's going to be in the draft and who might, is this the year Jordy Barstool is going to get drafted by an NLL team?
No, never. First of all, no. And second of all, maybe. He's a character, man. That guy's a trip. I'd only ever conversed with him on Twitter until we got to the draft. And I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know if I was getting a lax bro or if that was just like a persona that he put on. But he's a pretty cool dude, man. He's another one of those guys. The kid grinds, man. Like he may take a lot of slack and people may rag on him a bit for being a barstool Jordy kind of guy. Like that persona is kind of his and he owns it. But again, that's pride of ownership. He gets it. He owns it. But he's also been grinding in that Philly market for years, man. Like from writing blogs to doing podcasts to going around trying to just sell himself. Like again, it's not easy to do, and he's a different cat for sure. But I respect the game, man. He does a hell of a job. So no, he won't get drafted.
That's awesome. I'm glad we heard that from you. So we're going to get into our final thing here. You've been around the game for a very long time, and you've seen a lot of officials, and you've probably seen a lot of abuse towards them too. And recently, especially in Ontario, there's been a lot of abuse towards the refs. So Jake and I always like to ask our guests who your favorite official is and why.
I would say, I have a really good relationship with Todd LeBranch right now because I played when he was a ref, and now I kind of commentate as he's a ref, and I really respect what he does and his communication level with players and coaches. He can be stern when he has to be. He can be friendly and accommodating when he has to be in those conversations, and I think he really manages the game well. I think what people forget as fans is that referees aren't just only calling the game, they're also managing the game. And so there are times where you have to be able to let things go and you have to let the play go and the flow of the game go, because as players, we know if there's whistles every 20 seconds or you don't get any flow to a game, it ruins the game, right? There's nothing worse than playing the fastest game on 2 feet with whistles every 2 minutes, right? You guys know that. It sucks. And so if a referee, and I think this is one of the things that Todd's done really well. I think Rick Lum always did a great job of this. Ron Corsato always did a great job of this. is they communicate while they're reffing, and so they're telling you what they're expecting. And so if you chop a guy once, Todd was always like, "Hey, that's too much." If you chop him again, this is your last warning. He's not just throwing the arm up right away. He lets you understand the balance and letting players know what the line is. And that's one thing we always, not always, but often say is the referees are letting them play so the players can understand where the fine line is. But another thing that great referees do is they call it consistent from the first whistle to the last. There's nothing worse than something being allowed in the first 5 minutes and not allowed in the last 5 minutes. Because that, as a player, is the most frustrating thing. Or from one shift to the next. You get back picked, it's not called. Same back pick, the next shift, it's called. It's confusing for a player. So I think that, Todd's one of my favorites. He just understands it. He understands how to properly call a game.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you touched on it there. The communication between the players and the officials is always something that helps out for the players and the officials as well to make the game that we all love so much better. So, Teddy, we appreciate you come on here and talking with us, and we hope to hear your voice back on calling some lacrosse games here soon enough. And thank you for everything that you do for growing the game of lacrosse.
Lads, I appreciate you just as much. This is awesome. We need more of these friendly chats, especially during these times. But your podcast is the next one up to bat. So carry the torch, lads.
Thanks, Teddy.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Sticks and Picks Lacrosse podcast presented by Lacrosse Unlimited. Lacrosse Unlimited provides the best equipment on the market, including True Lacrosse. Thanks to Lacrosse Unlimited for their awesome giveaway of the new True Vector Lacrosse head and the Staple Pigeon Unlimited shaft. Congratulations to Todd Downey for being selected as the winner, and thank you to everyone who entered to win. Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages on Twitter and Instagram at SticksPicksLax and on Facebook at Sticks and Picks Lacrosse. There you will find more lacrosse content, giveaways, and details about future podcast releases. Special thanks to True Lacrosse for their continued support in helping grow the game through the Sticks and Picks Lacrosse podcast.